What's going on? Actually, the Fun Football here with exciting videos today, and we have exciting videos for us. Thoughts in the Minnesota Vikings sports season. There was some ups and downs. There were some great moments. There were some bad moments. There were some great games and some worst games. And they made back to the playoff, but there still needs to be done. What are your thoughts about this Vikings season? Even though it was a success, especially for the offensive side, but the defense needs work still. What are your thoughts? Start with Pogba Mace.
Well, as far as what I was hearing from Kuisi before, he was stating everything that this was going to be a competitive year. He had a lot of veterans that were going into the playmaking side of things. He wanted to get that offensive minded head coach from the first start. Everything kind of just panned out the way that I was expecting it. They took the leap over the hump of whatever Zimmer's coaching season has gone to. I really enjoyed. My biggest thoughts on this season was everyone had that integrity to win. They didn't have that loss of censorship inside the clubhouse. They built so much chemistry through this actual season on there. So all in all, I really enjoyed it a lot, even though it did end in the first round exit. As far as defensive side goes, there was a lot of work that needs to be proven, being the worst defense in the league, in my honest opinion. But all in all, you can't complain about a 13-win season.
No.
You can say that they got lucky by one score. You could say the same from last year. We were unlucky with that score. So when we weren't able to face these one possession games, it was such a factor on there. So, but that is my whole intake on there.
And the person they say first.
Yeah. It was it was obviously a success. I mean, uh, even if you don't make it to the Super Bowl, there's still successes in the season, and it's a success with your new coach, your new GM. Offensively, it's working out really well. Cook kind of had a down year, which I don't know if that's concerning or not, but I think that's maybe just more of like the schemes. They're not running I formation, 50 times a game. So that might be part of it. But uh, now that we got Hawkinson and just we have a lot more weapons on offense, so that's really good. And once you can figure out the offensive line, that'll really help. I think it is really bad that they had a negative point differential. That's bad. Like it's good that they know how to win in those close games, but
Yes.
it gets to a point where like you need to start blowing people out or at least winning by double digits. So I think if they can figure out their defense and just maybe even allow 5 less points a game, that'll put them in a much better spot. And whether that's, cutting veterans, adding free agents, drafting, stuff like that. I think they could definitely use more secondary help and more of a pass rush too. Like in the
Oh,
final couple games, like they didn't call Smith's name a whole lot, or
yep.
a lot of their premier pass rushers just it didn't feel like they could get much pressure. And special teams that's important too. Greg Joseph is actually pretty good. Haven't had a good Minnesota kicker for a couple years, so that's always a positive. But I think if they can keep the offense the same and really improve the defense, they'll be doing really good next year.
My
Yeah, I
point.
agree. Like offense was very solid this year. You kept running, you changing it up on the opposite schemes. You they do like they did like, I believe the more play action plays. They fake the ball to Cook, we spread the offense more. And if you really get like a very good number two right out, that's gonna help Jefferson and Hawkinson out more. And to be honest, I think Dylan's not gonna stay with the Vikings anymore. It's hard to say that as a Minnesota native. It's been his all time his career. Started as special teams. Zimmer turned him on offense, which is probably the only small thing that he did. And it worked very well on offense. But I think it's time to part ways with Thielen. I know, like Minnesota native, but I think if you go get out a number two wideout, it's gonna make Jefferson's job a lot more easier and Hogginson. And guess what? Jefferson is most likely gonna he loves it here. But if you really want him to stay here, play his whole career here, you gotta go out and get number two, a legit number two. And I think KJ Osborne could actually fill that shoe, but he could be also be good in that number three wideout spot. So if you get that, you had to deal with Jefferson, a good number two, and Osborne and Hogginson, and then Cook on screen passes. That right there, that's a deadly offensive line. That this picture is like a deadly offense in general. And yeah, there's a Cleveland to help the offensive line load. And when they're not in the offensive line, when they're hurt, offensive line collapse. It's gonna pressure Cousins, and he's gonna get sacked more. But you can't blame him really on that. It's all about the offensive line.
Yeah, and kind of to go off of that, there are for this next year, Adam Thielen is going to get close to $20 million, and Harrison Smith around 19. There's a couple other people up there that as well, but I think it's tough to let veterans like that go, but
Yeah,
for winning, it's probably the best thing just based off of performance, like to almost take away $40 million in cap
yep.
of those two players that you can use in free agency, re-signing other people. They're Vikings legends, but they're
You
kind of
are.
getting up there, and it's tough to know if they're really worth it at this point. Like,
Most of the
I can
should we
see
be paying Adam Thielen $20 million next year? You
yeah,
know?
I can like going off of that. I can easily see Thielen or Noah Smith taking a pay cut, maybe like half or three-fourths of it.
Hmm.
But I think if you were thinking, it sounds like Thielen's not happy here. The
not
way I
with that
think,
whole not with that whole screen anymore. I think with what his standpoint is on this whole offense, he still thinks he could play. I still think he can to a certain degree, but I still don't think he's worth 20 million anymore.
no,
I think he's more of his asset. I could see him being a number 3 somewhere where he could be a clutch red zone target like he was this year. He didn't get it as much as he did the previous years, but at the same point, I still see him like a Jordy Nelson in my eyes. He could still get that red zone target if he needed to inside that actual end zone. However, I don't think as much, his athleticism is still there to catch the ball. He's not going to drop passes. He just won't. Is he going to outrun the cornerbacks anymore? I don't think so. That's where I think his downfall is kind of decreasing, is his speed. I don't think he's beating as many guys anymore. All his catches you saw this year were mostly contested. So he wasn't able to escape from all these other players.
or screen and short passes.
Right. And I don't think he's that type of guy anymore. I don't think he could outrun on jet sweeps or screen passes but you could still try to make him a contested catcher. It would be kind of nice to the reason why I think he's the odd man out now is because you got someone like KJ Osborne, you got someone like Jefferson that's going to just have that full. But yes, I don't think KJ is there to take that second step of a wide receiver too. At least I don't think he has the the athleticism to get there quite yet. He could learn it this year. It's just a matter of what they have to progress. Maybe they already see him as a number 2 and they just want to save as much as they can for that time before they have to, dump the big load on Justin Jefferson. My next theory on this season is you, as much as I look into Mr. Kirk Cousins, he's like the biggest offensive guy that I gotta see moving forward this year. Honest. With his contract, he's making $36 million this year. What he did this year was the second best stat line I've seen since Brett Favre. I mean, for what Brett Favre did, yes, he threw a few interceptions, but with Cousins, he threw 4,600 yards. I mean, you got to take that into consideration. A lot of people don't like him for
including playoffs.
For him just being a pocket passer, for him not making the right decisions at the right time, or whatever. I still stand by his ground that he could still throw for 4,000 yards if he needs it. Even if you have that, I still think they should lighten the load a little bit on him as well, moving forward with his age. I still think they gotta progress in this run game. A lot of people are saying in this draft this year that they should go after a wide receiver in the first round. When I see that, I agree with it, but I kind of don't, because we also have to improve this defense.
I think they should go after a defensive end the first round. You got to.
Defensive end, I could see the possibility. The one thing that I got to think about on that draft is what kind of edge rushers are out there. If they're worth in the first round, if they're deep this year into this actual draft, I tend to say, maybe wait a couple rounds or so. But I'm also looking at our draft stock where we don't have a second round pick again. This is the second year in a row that we'll be without a second round pick. I don't know if that means that we should trade in or trade away players to get a second rounder or possibly a first. I still think, what it sounds like is Patrick Peterson sounds like he wants to come back and everything. So you bring him back for a cheaper amount. You don't bring him for 10 plus because you see where his age is. I still see, it kind of reminds me of, remember Terrence Newman?
Yes.
Terrence Newman, when he came back and everything,
Yeah.
I thought he had this veteran leadership that he could treat these older guys or younger guys into that role. But it's a matter of time. You got to pull the trigger. There's got to be some holes in this system, but you got to fix them into the best degree.
And think about this: if the Vikings go this route, with Patrick Peterson, Harrison Smith, Lewis Cine, and Sullivan. That's a deadly fallback.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'll be a very deadly fallback, but I can see Kendrick's taking a pay cut as well.
Mm-hmm.
But you still have to worry about the front line and those two left and right outside linebackers as well.
I say you bring back Tomlinson.
Yep.
You sign him. You could get him back for a big plus rush on there. What I also think is it all depends on this new defensive coordinator we're getting. We don't know if it's going to be either or, but the way I see it is Mike Pettin, you look at him, you look at Brian Flores, and you look at the defensive assistant coach from Seattle. Is it Osai or?
I think so. Yeah.
Osai.
Something like that. Yeah.
Regardless on there, I think with either or on there, they've been running 4-3 defenses. So it looks like that they're going to go back to that old style where maybe a few of these guys that are veterans can still stay here. I do think that they should keep Kendricks if they get someone like Brian Flores, because Brian Flores is going to do wonders over there. He's going to have the full control of that defense, and he has. It's been 2 years that he's brought back horrendous defenses into star-studded Super Bowl caliber.
And I think that the Vikings are just one step away.
That's the thing.
They're close. The Minnesota Vikings are close.
With the offense that we had this year, you're looking at the Chiefs back when Mahomes was there, or when Mahomes was in the Super Bowl last time. Their defense was middle of the pack, and they won the Super Bowl. I kind of said that going into this year. We just need to be the 15th best. Were we? Not even close. But that standard is still there. All you have to do is you can stay in the middle of the pack. I'd be happy with 15th in the NFL.
Kind of like Cincinnati Bengals last year. Amazing offense, middle of the road defense. I mean, and they were like 1 or 2 plays away from winning the Super Bowl.
They were.
Yeah.
And their offensive line was the worst in the NFL. I mean, they made it work.
I mean,
you don't have to have the strongest defense in the NFL.
Yeah.
But you can't have the weakest either.
No. I mean, that's the exact same year that the Vikings played the Bengals first game of the regular season. It was going back and forth all game long. And what I really do not like is when defenses playing prevent, lower 2 minutes left in the game, deep in their territory, and the other team just come back and just wins the game with that. Don't play prevent. The best is to either just play man or blitz.
The only time I agree with playing prevent defense is if you're up by more than a field goal. If you're up by a touchdown, if you're up by 6-7 points, and they have to score a touchdown, prevent's going to be your savior down that line. So that's when it's mainly in the red zone side. That's where I see that.
The only reason I can see a cover 6 / prevent, the ball is in midfield with like 6 seconds left, and they have to keep it down. That's probably the only scenario you have to do.
Right.
But it's 50-50. Either you are an extra point away from tying the game or you lost. It's 50-50. And the thing I'm aware of, thoughts of the Vikings team this year, it was awful. It was like a nightmare to watch this Stevens play. They got outplayed by Danny Dimes in the playoffs. All that defense needed done is just stop them for one drive, one scoring drive. If you take basically one scoring drive away from them, and then you replace it with your scoring drive of your own, guess what? You ran that game.
Oh, and they couldn't run, or they couldn't tackle anyone on the Giants. They couldn't. Danny Dimes almost got 100 rushing yards. That was bad.
They couldn't stop him. And it's really frustrating.
The biggest frustration I had going into that game is you had Ed Donatel tell everyone, you're going to like how you see this new defense. I saw Danielle Hunter in the flat guarding wide receivers, not once, not twice, 3 times. Guarding a wide receiver. This dude is 280 pounds, and this dude is trying to guard a wide receiver. He's gonna outrun him easily, and this is all on 3rd down.
Oh yeah,
I remember Barr was doing that too.
They
couple
had
years
no spy
ago.
on Daniel Jones. They did nothing to prevent him on there.
Nope.
Mm-hmm.
No
Still,
adjustments.
nope.
And
There was
but going
this was
back,
worse than I didn't even think it was possible to get worse than this season. And it did in that playoff game. It did.
going back, what I mentioned earlier, if you stop them with just one time, replace with your own scoring drive of your own, you'll be going to San Fran, and
Mm-hmm.
most likely with that defense, what we have this year, will probably got demolished by Brock Purdy,
Could have gotten
most
Yep.
demolished by
likely.
Josh Johnson.
But the thing is, you cannot predict
We
that.
probably would
Okay,
have.
I mean,
That's
yeah,
the
like
sad
okay,
thing.
let's say you beat the Niners. Like now you play Philly and Philly. Most likely, the refs. Yes, I am bringing the refs in this situation. Will most likely go against any possible way, like they've been doing all season long. And you win. We just saw it in both of these conference championship games. I'm sorry for going off topic, but it's bad. Like I'm not blaming the rest of on the Vikings playoff loss. I'm not, but there's some on their side that need to get fixed. Vikings need to fix their defense, and if you bring in like Brian Flores and let's couple of other guys, I say they could be back in the top 15 and make even a bigger, deeper playoff run
I mean,
next
it
season.
really all starts if you can get like a consistent pass rush. That'll just help out your secondary so much, and vice versa. Like if you can get a good pass rush with 4 or 5 people, then sorry,
No, you're
but
good.
if you can get like a pass rush with like 4 or 5 people, then you can just put like an extra one or two, safeties, corners back there, and that just does so much for you. And I think it would be beneficial for them to do like more different defensive schemes too. Like, oh God, I think it's called like 1-5-3-1 or something like that. It's
Never do
it's
coverage.
like
Stick a shell coverage.
yeah, but oh God, I forgot what it's called, but it's like one defensive tackle, 5 linebackers, 3 corners and safeties, or I'm not 100% sure, but just like different things where like you're blitzing different people. Just don't line up in like
Bye.
base, like cover
It's like a
two
spy
man,
play.
so much,
Oh,
but
you think with like
I
a
don't
like a
know.
spy blitz.
Yeah, yeah.
10-4, 7-5. Don't be
Hmm.
afraid.
Yeah.
Um, we're back.
Hmm.
I miss 2017. Everything was set. You had you had Everson Griffin, Danielle Hunter. You just had a lot of good pieces. Linval Joseph. You had so
Hmm.
many people that were getting pressure. Your
Yeah.
defensive tackles were getting into the pressure. That's how everything should have been ran. If we had
Hmm.
2017's defense, we would have been a we would have probably had a number one seed. We probably would have
Yeah.
hosted every single game. We
Oh,
probably would have
absolutely.
had something that would have led to the Super Bowl. But
Do you think if we had like the 2017 defense, do you think the Minnesota Vikings would be in the Super Bowl? Yes or no?
It,
very
it's so hard. It's so hard to predict. Um,
very
I think,
likely, but it's
yeah,
It's like
there's a lot of stuff that has to
55-45.
go their way. Yeah.
we
But
definitely would
that's
have
the
been
thing.
able
That's a lot of
to.
ifs, ands, or buts. We're still looking into the time of um Zimmer's defense. That
Hmm.
was his ran defense. It wasn't the
Yeah.
defense coordinator. It was by his own designs. So
I think well, it's so tough to say, but I think they definitely could have beaten the Niners. It's tough to say how they would match up against the Eagles.
Yeah.
I just think the Eagles have like the best overall roster. I mean, they have like three Pro Bowlers on their offensive line. They have good receivers. They have good running backs. They have a a pretty decent defense. Like I think overall, like one of, if not the best team. So I think it really comes down to who would have had home field advantage in that scenario.
Mhm. Yeah.
But that would be interesting. Maybe that's someone should do that on Madden.
Possible.
Yeah.
Come on there.
Yeah. All right. Justin Jefferson has 2 years left. His time in Minnesota, and he loves it here, especially this season. Like that crazy catch in Buffalo, that crazy
Mhm.
comeback against the Colts at home, and that overtime CJ Ham expression was classic.
Hmm.
And here's my prediction: I see the Vikings will sign Jefferson before the next season starts. I think you got to give him at least 7 years extension. So for the next 9 years, that the previous two would be his contract years, his rookie contract
Hmm.
years. You want to make sure you extend them, not like give him like a new contract, like extend for 7 years, which gives him a grand total of 9, no
Oh.
trade clause,
Hmm.
and have him here for 9 years, make him happy, and then I can see, and with those 9 years, I said the Minnesota Vikings will win 1 or 2 Super Bowls.
Okay, okay.
In the 9 year span, if that does happen, with one being, it could be both, with Kirk Cousins as a quarterback. And I so believe that he can still bring us to the big game.
Hmm.
And like I've been so seeing people talking about this, but not much really. Like it was 4th and 8. He did a check up to Hawkinson, and said people, why were we checking down 4th and 8? Well, one, Cousins wanted to make sure he kept the play alive. Two, no one was open, not even close. I look at that play multiple times. If he would have waited like 1 or 2 more seconds, two things would have happened. Either he would got sacked or a strip sack. And
Hmm.
once again, you're gonna bring Cousins in that as well. So I do not blame Cousins and as well, especially for that loss. What I do blame for that loss is that defense. Uh, any
Mm.
closing thoughts of the Viking
Yeah, I
season?
think um I think it'll really help, like, Jefferson still developing, because he's only like 23, 24. Same with
Very
Christian
young, very
Darrisaw.
young.
Yes, Christian Darrisaw too. He was a little bit banged up this year. If they can really like solidify like Darrisaw, Bradbury, if they can still keep developing and getting to a higher level, I think that'll really help.
Cleveland, yep.
But I think it is important for them to, unfortunately, get rid of Thielen, lock up Jefferson, and then I
And
think
Hawkinson.
secondary help, like
Yep.
corners, safeties, and pass rushers. That should be their main priority. I feel like Osborne can be a number 2 receiver. And then with Hawkinson, that's good. I I I don't trust Jalen Rager. He's no good.
No.
You can
I
find like another wide receiver 3, whether like
yep.
later round in the draft, maybe like third or fourth round,
Yeah,
or
you
free
can also
agency.
look. Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
Master, what do you give on the Minnesota Vikings? What is your grade? Get a grade on offense, special teams, and defense.
Ooh, for the season,
Yes.
okay. Offense A, defense D minus. Not quite an F, but I'll give them D minus. Special teams. I mean, I'll give them B. I mean, they
Fair,
were
fair.
decent on special teams. I mean, they got a couple punt blocks. Well, their punts blocked, so that's not
Yep.
good. But Greg Joseph was good, and um, they got a good returner, so I'll give them a B.
I'm gonna stick with. Actually, I do like their special teams. I really think that they've actually progressed with uh, Mr. White himself. He reminds me exactly like McAfee. I think he's got the charisma and the swagger to be a punter in the NFL. Just this big stocky guy that can punt. You have Kenny Nwangwu, who had a kick return for a touchdown this year. That's a plus on there. He's got 3 in his career in 2 seasons. Just continue with his ride. Defense, I really hated it because I'm the guy that is firmly believed on the defense just to be that physical. They were nothing close to it. I have them right at an F just because they were the worst. You can't get much worse at this point. So anything will be an improvement for this upcoming future. Optimistic for what comes because a defensive coordinator that switches it back to a 4-3, maybe they don't have to cut as many veterans on that defense. Lastly, offense. I give them an A just because everything standpoints at what O'Connell's mindset is on there. He has everything on the schemes correct. He's just got one other side of the ball to worry about, but that offense itself is going to be a top 5 offense for a couple more years now. It's just a matter of what can they do to stay healthy, to move forward, and just go from that process of, do you need a backup running back with Madison? Do you need Cook to stay? There's a few questions on that offense still for the offseason too. So, but overall an A for that. The overall grade in my mind, I would end up just giving them a straight B+ or so after everything else. But
All right,
yep.
here's my my overall grades for the Vikings. I am bowling between an average D-, but I get the D with a D-. The special teams was very decent this year, so I from mostly give them like a B+. The offense was a top 5 offense clearly. They have Jefferson, they have Hockenson, which Hockenson really helped the offensive schemes of like going being off of there that they said how long you can Cook stay active in this Vikings roster, how long you can stay healthy. I think he had a good year. Having trouble sometimes hang out to the football, but I think like 2 or 3 of the 4 fumbles he lost wasn't his fault, though. But overall, I give this Minnesota Vikings an A on offense. And I can honestly seeing this Vikings offense surviving, like, might be in the next 5 years to the top 5 years in offense, I think. And overall, I can give them a B+ overall. Yep. And now we'll wrap up today's video. Let me know down in the comments what your thoughts of the Vikings season is. Do you guys agree? Do you don't? Let me know down in the comments. And tune in next time for a brand new sports topic, which we had to discuss still. To next time, I think we can talk about the Super Bowl depending on who wins actually. If the Eagles win, we won't do it.
What? Oh,
I want to do it, but I'm not just saying it because I'm a Vikings fan, pretty much. But we'll see.
yeah.
But do it next time.